Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Listen Bitch podcast with your favorite mindset coach and host. Okay, this is your go to destination for unlocking your full potential and embracing the extraordinary possibilities within you. This is a journey of self discovery and empowerment as you explore that transformative power of stepping into greatness. Come into alignment with your God given power and gifts. Unleash your soul and learn to co create a life you love. As you become the writer of your own story, in this podcast, you're going to find inspiration, practical tips, and sometimes abrasive nudge to take the leap of faith towards your dreams. You're in the right place. Buckle up so we can unleash your inner badass. If you guys want to support the mission, go to listenbitchdonations.com. And if you want to change your life, make sure you scroll my show notes here. Check everything down below and you can pick your path. I share my favorite biohacks. I've got my books in there. I even have a side gig if you want a little bit of extra cash in there. That's coming up, and I have some incredible things to come. I'm hoping this week. I'm waiting for a final say on the topic I talked about last week about signing an NDA. I'm excited for that to launch. As soon as it's public, I'm going to get the expert on here and we're going to talk about all of that because I genuinely am stupid excited about that. So, it's going to be a whole test, don't guess process. Like, I'm going to help you figure out why your supplements aren't working for you. And I don't care what you're taking. It doesn't matter what company it's from. It is a solid universal study. Okay. So we're going to get into that. But you guys, listen, I know I'm a couple days late on the podcast and I wish I could come in here with like a super polished excuse. But the truth is, I made a deal with myself about microdosing my chaos addiction. And so I knew I set this mindset of like, okay, so you're not going to freak out the last minute. You have to go pre record a bunch of episodes, right? I got overwhelmed. Like, I popped the chaos pimple and I was enjoying it and I freaked the fuck out and I backed up. So, um, yeah, I was not stepping into a microdose at all with this addiction. And I feel like sometimes breaking that addiction does not look pretty. It does not look like perfectly scheduled content or showing up polished every day. Sometimes it looks like stepping all the way back. And I had to do that because I was feeling that I knew I was feeding it still. Okay. So I took some breaths and had little issue with some Wi-Fi yesterday. In fact, my Bible study for a badass, I don't know what's going on with that either. I know you're like, different show, Brandon, different show, but all my videos that I posted since like the 29th of August, it just keeps saying process abandoned, video too long, and now I don't even know what to do. So there was a little bit of interference with internet and crazy stuff yesterday. And I'm shocked today because we have a huge storm and I have no issues. So that's fantastic. But yeah, if I keep feeding that chaos, I mistake it for productivity. And that's how I trick myself into thinking that I'm doing like something super powerful when really I'm just burning fuel with no direction or, doing that burnout without letting go. So I went quiet for a second. It's not because I don't care about this podcast. You guys know that. And it's not because I don't care about you, but it's because I refuse to let chaos drive anymore. Like, I would rather be late and honest and on time and still feeding that. Like, I know this is a serious issue with me because I've used it for self-sabotage for a very long time. And if you've ever lived in that cycle, you know exactly what I'm talking about, you know? Yeah, but today's episode, I'm going way off track. We're going to talk about conditional belonging, because let's be real, most of us are walking around with a fake membership card in our back pocket to places like conditional belonging. And you know what I'm talking about, that sneaky belief that says I belong here, but only if I behave, only if I don't upset anybody, and only if I keep earning it. That's why you walk into a room full of people and they actually like you, but you still feel like an outsider. That's why you edit your stories. That's why you shrink your voice. That's why you convince yourself that you're too much or that you're not enough, depending on the day. Conditional belonging is a contract that you never should have signed, but you've been paying the rent here for years. Today we're ripping it up because God never asked you to prove your worth or to perform for a seat at the table. He already gave you one. So if you're tired of acting like a guest in your own damn life, buckle up because this episode, I'm planning on setting you free. Um, if you're asking yourself right now, like, Brandon, what the fuck are you talking about? What is conditional belonging? That is when your sense of being accepted or loved or safe is tied to performance. It's tied to agreement. It's tied to shrinking yourself to fit in. It's that feeling of I belong here as long as I don't say too much, as long as I don't shine too bright, as long as I don't mess up, or as long as I don't disagree. And it's like being invited to the room, but told don't sit at the head of the table, don't laugh too loud, don't make it about you, don't be too different. You're technically in, but you're never at rest. You're never at rest. It's when I convince myself that my worth and my place and my safety depends on how well I perform for other people. And it's that sneaky little voice that says I belong here, but only if. So then I just live like an invited guest in my own life, always watching what I say, how I look, how much space I take up. Even when people love me, I still feel like the outsider because I'm operating under a fake contract that I never should have signed. And this is how it shows up. If you're holding back in conversations because you're scared of being too much, maybe you minimize your wins because you don't want people to think that you're bragging. Maybe you're scanning the room for every sign of rejection, even when people actually like you. I walk away from huge gatherings just fucking exhausted. And not because people drain me, but because I drain myself trying to manage their perception of me. That is not belonging. Listen, bitch, that is survival. How do we change this? You have to call out the lie. You have to literally write down the exact condition that you've been living under. Like, I only belong if I never make anyone uncomfortable. If you name it, it makes it real. Once it's real, then it can stop running you in the shadows, right? I want you to see the damage. Ask yourself, how much have I lost by honoring this bullshit contract? How many times have I muted myself or delayed my calling or swallowed my truth because of it? When you face that cost, it should make you mad enough to stop paying it and tear up the contract. Speak the truth over yourself out loud. I belong because God says I do. My worth isn't up for negotiation. My terms aren't conditional anymore. If you say it out loud, it breaks that silent agreement. Then you can test the freedom, right? You could practice in real time. Next conversation, share the full story instead of editing. Next post, write it without the filter, the filter of watering it down. Next prayer, tell God exactly how you feel without trying to sound holy. That's how you build the muscle memory for unconditional belonging. You got to anchor. You know, every time you feel that old contract back, you have to go back to what God says. I chose you. I ordained you that you should go forth and bring fruit. He picked you. He picked me before you had to prove anything, before I had to prove anything. Anchor to that, not people's flaky ass moods. When I live this way, I stop begging rooms for a chair. I stop twisting myself to be accepted. I start showing up as the whole, loud, blunt, passionate version of me with the really big feelings and the really colorful language. And ironically, that's when the right people do show up because they're waiting on the real me, not the edited version. You're still feeling like this because when you've achieved, even when people love you, you can still feel like the outsider. And that's because conditional belonging rewires your nervous system to always scan for rejection. It convinces you that safety means smallness. And when someone praises you, you don't actually receive it. When someone criticizes you, you spiral. When you're in a room of people who do like you, you still wonder if it's only a matter of time before they turn. That's not the truth. That's the old contract. That's the old contract. That's why we're walking into those rooms and not feeling like we belong. Even when we have success and compliments and proof that we're wanted, something in me has always whispered, yeah, but not really. They'll leave. You're too much. You're not enough. Because I've been carrying that fucking outside energy my whole life. And somewhere along the way, I signed that contract that said, I belong only if I'm useful. I belong only if I'm perfect. I belong only if I don't rock the boat. I belong only if I keep earning it. Once you sign that, you have now trained your nervous system to expect that rejection, even in the safe places. So belonging never feels permanent. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's why even when people do accept me, you guys, I struggle so hard to receive it. I know you're going through this. You have to catch that script in real time. You know, next time you're in the room or in a conversation and your chest tightens and it's saying, I don't belong here, stop and name it. Say it. That's not the truth. That's the old contract. When you name it, it interrupts that autopilot, you know? And then you have to ask yourself, who wrote this contract? Was it my parents? Was it a teacher? Was it the church? Was it a friend group? Someone convinced me belonging was conditional because, babe, that wasn't God. That was people still living under their own broken contracts. And you had to tear it up with the truth. I literally picture ripping it in half and I say it out loud. I belong because God says I do. I'm chosen, period. He chose me before I did a damn thing right. He chose me after I did everything wrong. Then you got to retrain your nervous system, practice that unconditional belonging in small doses, share the story without editing, say the thing without toning it down, post the truth without watering it down. Every time you survive that moment, you prove to your body that you're safe to be the real you. Anchor to abiding, not performing. Belonging isn't about earning, it's about abiding. When I anchor to God, I stop performing for people and I live from a place of already belonging. That shift quiets all the outside voices. You stop walking into rooms as a guest and start walking up as if you actually live there because you do. This is where I stop begging people to make me feel safe and I start carrying safety in myself. And once I stop treating myself like an outsider, the world reflects that back to me. You agreed to a lie. You agreed that love has to be earned. You agreed that you can't be all of you and still be wanted. You agreed that you're only safe if you don't piss people off. And that agreement, conscious or not, became that emotional contract that locked you into outsider energy, no matter how many people are cheering for you. And this is why 99% of the time I want to shake the shit out of you guys after we have this conversation because I'm fucking cheering for you. I'm helping you, and you're sticking to this bullshit agreement that doesn't exist. God never asked you to sign it. There's a book. It's called the Bible, full of evidence that you were chosen before you performed. Belonging to him was unconditional from the jump. The contract was written by fear, trauma, by the one who wants you sick and stuck, or by people who themselves were stuck in performance-based love. Somewhere along the way, you agreed to a deal you didn't even know you were making. I will only be loved if I earn it. I will only be loved if I stay small. I will only be safe if I'm small. I'll only be accepted if I don't upset anyone. That wasn't God's covenant with you. That was a survival strategy. It was a contract you signed with fear and pain and the opinions of broken ass people. And the truth is, as long as it's still active, you're going to keep living like you owe rent in a house God already gave you for free. That's it. You have to identify the exact cause. What is that specific lie, the specific condition that you've been living under? I'll only belong if I never make mistakes. Until you see it clearly, it's going to own you in the shadows and expose the cost. Like, what has this stolen from me? Is it your peace? Is it your creativity? Is it your relationships? Write the receipts that will wake you the fuck up and you have to renounce it out loud. Say it. I cancel this contract. It is not mine to carry. I belong because God says I belong. Say it out loud. That is spiritual warfare. It breaks the silence agreement. Replace with an anchor to what God actually promised, that unconditional shit, unconditional belonging, unconditional love, and a purpose that isn't up for negotiation. The new agreement's going to sound like I belong without performing. I'm safe without shrinking. I'm chosen without conditions. The contract doesn't fully die until I test it. You understand that? So do that one thing unfiltered. That means I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm going to say what I mean. I'm going to post without editing for approval. I'm going to bring my full self into a conversation. And every time I live uncontracted, I'm going to prove to my nervous system that I am safe. And when I tear up that hidden contract, I stop being a tenant in my own life. I stop playing guest in rooms. I become the lead character. I stop carrying the weight of conditions that he never asked me to carry. And that's when freedom shows up, not because you earned it, but because you finally believe it. You finally believe it. You don't rip this contract up by proving. You break it by refusing. Name that lie, expose the cost, sign it with the truth, test it. God says it. You were chosen before you did a damn thing right. His love is not conditional, it's covenant. Your identity is secure in me, not in their approval. You're safe because I cover you, not because you shrink. That tells the truth of every lie you've been living with. And he's not dangling love like a paycheck. He stamped you with belonging before you even had a chance to earn it. Catch it in real time. When you're thinking that you're not enough, when you're saying in your head, I'm just too much, ask if it's God's covenant or the fake contract, because that pause will give you a choice. Replace it with scripture. I don't just walk around and think positive. You have to weaponize the truth, okay? The contract says you'll be abandoned, and he's saying, I'll never leave you, I'll never forsake you. The contract is saying you have to earn it, and God says it is finished. Act from belonging, not for belonging. This is the integration key. Instead of working for this approval, I started speaking and posting and loving and building like someone who already belongs. When I stop hustling for my worth, my energy shifts from begging to leading. I'm leading. Practice that abiding over performing. Jesus said it, abide in me. Abiding means staying. It means resting. It means being at home. Performing means striving, proving, fearing rejection. You're never going to thrive there. Every time you choose to sit in God's presence instead of scrambling to impress people, you're going to retrain your nervous system, no matter how long you've been making it wonky. And then you surround yourself with people. Like, some folks are only going to relate to me through the contracts, through the bullshit contracts. Okay. They'll make me feel like I'm one mistake away from exile. When you stop letting them define your identity, when you look for people who can see God's view, that covenant based, not condition based, that environment is going to reinforce your truth. Living by God's view means I no longer live like that tenant. You're going to walk in rooms like you belong there because you already do. You build your business as if it's already blessed because it is, and you stop negotiating with contracts that were never yours. Peace replaces striving. That's when freedom becomes normal. And that's when I actually feel what God declared all along. You are mine, you are chosen, and you belong without condition. When you rip up that contract, you stop being the outsider, even in your own head. You stop begging rooms for a chair and you start building your own table. And you finally experience what Jesus meant when he said, abide in me, because abiding is belonging without condition. If you keep living under this contract, it's never just your life that's going to feel small. There's a ripple effect. Your kids are going to learn that love is conditional. My husband's going to get the edited version of me. Your friends are going to walk on eggshells because you're constantly hustling to be accepted. And your audience is only going to see the half power version of your message. When you allow the shit to shrink you, everything you touch shrinks. And that is the ugly, ugly ripple. But if you can break it even imperfectly, your kids are going to see what freedom is like. Your spouse is going to see the difference when you show up whole. Your friends are going to relax because you're no longer performing, and your audience gets that raw, unedited truth. And that's what changes lives. When you expand, everything you touch expands, and that is the ripple. And the old contract is sneaky, babe. Okay. It's been running for years. Of course, I'm going to tell you, I still catch myself shrinking. And that is not failure. I'm practicing. The slip doesn't restart the contract unless I re-sign it. Do you understand? And that's it. It's going to be another thing that you just have to name really fast. When you notice that you've slipped back into that outsider mode, you have to call it out. That's the old contract, not me. I don't owe it anything. That awareness alone is breaking the cycle, and you have to re-anchor so fast. I'm not talking about falling into the spiral. Go straight to God's truth. I am chosen. I am safe. I belong without condition. Use the scripture, okay? Pick one of your favorites, keep it locked and loaded, and do a bold act of freedom. Every time I slip, I counterpunch with a small rebellion against that old contract. I post something scary. I speak unedited truth in conversation. I show up exactly as I am, and I'm proving to myself that I don't belong to that lie anymore. And then I look for evidence of the new ripple. Who got freer because I was freer? Who breathed easier because I stopped performing? And where did my nervous system stay calm when I would have panicked before? I look for all the proof and truth there. The ripple effect is always happening, whether it's fear-based or freedom-based. And even when I slip, I don't lose my progress. Every time I rip up that contract again, every time I come back to God's covenant, I create another wave of freedom. And that's how you keep breaking cycles. Not by never slipping, you're going to fuck up, okay? But by refusing to let the slip rewrite your identity and call you back into your old contracts. Bottom line, Belonging was never supposed to be conditional. You don't earn it, you don't perform for it, and you sure as hell don't have to shrink yourself to keep it. The people who only know how to love you with fine print are not your measuring stick. God already settled it. Your seat at the table is not up for negotiation. So the next time that outside energy creeps in, rip up the contract again. Walk in like you belong because you do. And you let your life be proof of the freedom that doesn't come from conditions, it comes from that covenant. And I want to make sure you guys share this episode with somebody who is still begging for the fucking scraps of acceptance, okay? Remind them, stop renting space you already own. You're chosen, you're covered, you belong, period. I'll see you on the next episode. I love you.